Yeah, stand down. All right, so, in other words, so when I was doing prosecution and so forth, if somebody, sometimes they will refer to that as forcible rape. And they do give more punishment for forcible rape. Okay? You understand that? Among adults. But here's the deal. Statutory is still rape. It's the government, understand this, the government comes in and they say to a particular group of people, we will protect you. It actually applies to people of diminished intelligence. So like if you're developmentally disabled and you're not like of sufficient mentality and so forth, you could be 25 years old but have an IQ that puts you at around 11. They're going to be protected by these laws as well. The basic gist is to protect young people. So that is why they have the so-called age of consent. In Idaho, it's 18, but I'll give you a little bit of an asterisk as far as like there is a little bit of an exception. Everybody under 18 cannot consent to sexual intercourse. You understand that? With some exceptions. I'll get to that in a moment because you're like, Mr. Hanson, that's not entirely true. I'll get to that in a sec. So let's say you've got like a 25-year-old and a 17-year-old. The 25-year-old's like, yes, let's do it. And the 17-year-old's like, yes, let's do it. No. The law of the state of Idaho says that is a crime, and the 25-year-old is going to be in serious trouble. And can the 25-year-old say to the court, she lied about her age? Nope, they can say it, but it's not going to make any difference. Okay? Really? Yes. Hence the slogan, 15 will get you 20. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? 15, if the person is 15 years of age, you're going to end up maybe in 20 years of prison or something like that. Okay? All right, now, there is a little bit of a thing they call the Cinderella Clause. You can write this down if it interests you, just so you can have conversations and so forth about this. I was actually kind of intrigued because Idaho, I want to say this is about like maybe 5 or 10 years ago, they changed the law a little bit. It used to be like a hard 18. If you had an 18-year-old and a 17-year-old and they were dating and they were having like intimacy and so forth, the 18-year-old would be in violation of state law. And you're like, but they're only 1 year apart. They changed the law. They call it the Cinderella Law. Okay? Because it's like, it's kind of like, oh no, I'm sorry, they're not Cinderella. The wrong one. I was thinking, wrong Disney movie. Actually, the Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. That's what they call it, Romeo and Juliet. There we go. Well done. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? I don't know, because my parents gave me that name. Whatever, what are you talking about? So here's how the Romeo and Juliet clause works. You ready? If she is 16 and he is 17 or 18, within 2 years, it's legal. She can consent. Hold on. If she's 17 and he's 18 or 19, she can consent. It's legal. If she's 18, doesn't matter. You know, the boyfriend could be much older and so forth. Doesn't matter. Do you understand that? 15, that's a hard no. Either one, 15. Do you understand that? So it's a 2-year kind of like thing, and it really only applies if one of the parties is 16, but then only if the other one is within that. So two 16-year-olds, a 16, 17, a 16, and 18. Because it's kind of like, here's the deal. What the government is saying is like, well, you know, if it's much older and she's 16 or 17 and they're much older and so forth, they're not really interested in the conversation. It's very much like they're just interested in the physicality and so forth of the relationship. Do you understand that? Whereas if you're the closer to the same age, then there is a higher likelihood that maybe there's something a little bit more going on there than just physical. That's how the government set it up. Now, here's what you need to write down. I believe this applies in Idaho and many other states as well. The punishment is greater for the males than the females. That is a difference of treatment on the basis of gender. That is a difference of treatment. Is an important governmental objective met by treating males and females differently, as in punishing the males more than the females? Basically saying the females, the statutory rape laws are trying to protect them from their own decisions, And basically what we're going to do is punish the guys to disincentivize them from making those decisions. You understand? So let's look at the criteria. Let's weigh the scales. The bad stuff that can happen from teenage sex between males and females. Pregnancy. Where does that come down more heavily on the scale? The guy? What does a guy look like after 9 months of pregnancy? The same. What does a female look like after 9 months of pregnancy? It's a physical difference. Okay? Well, let's take it one more month. What generally occurs after pregnancy? I'm not going to do a whole, delivery. Guys, what is a guy, what goes through a guy's like a physical like thing on the day of delivery of his child? What physically occurs to a female when she is delivering? It's a big deal. Okay? It's a big deal. Now, after delivery, write this down because some people are like, well, she had it. It's her responsibility. What is the financial responsibility with respect to a born child, mother versus father? It's the same. You understand that? You can write that down. That part is equal. Okay? Although, generally, Chris, if there is a feeding situation for a newborn infant, potentially who's going to carry more of the burden there? Mama, right? Okay? If they're naturally fed and so forth. As opposed to dad, it's kind of like, here, that's better. Okay, pat, 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 pat. Do you understand that? Is that a big difference? Shh. Okay, calm down, calm down. Is that a big difference between male and female, the pregnancy thing? I tell you what, write this down. The courts have looked at that and said, if the states want to treat guys differently, with more discipline than the females, they can do it. Because the consequences on the females are much greater. Oh, and throw this into the mix. Write this into the mix. They're really trying to discourage pregnancy from occurring because sometimes the young guy and the young female who are financially obligated to take care of the baby, they can't really afford it. And then who has to step in? The taxpayers. Well, the parents and the taxpayers, can the taxpayers through their governments justify saying, let's create a discouragement to one or both of these young people from having that intimacy to begin with? Yeah. And they put more of the emphasis on the guy. Here's another thing. Write this down because we're going to get to this later on. Getting pregnant is a huge physiological thing. Delivery is a huge physiological thing. It's also, I would dare say, a huge emotional thing. It's not just straight emotions. There is brand new hormones kicking in and flooding. If you've ever been around a female that is pregnant and so forth, it's real, okay? And it's real. It's just real, okay? And it's difficult to deal with. Like after the delivery and so forth, sometimes you can get these highs and lows. It's tough. Let's throw another one into the mix. Because some of you guys know this, some of you don't. What is another thing that could result after a pregnancy? You could have a miscarriage and so forth. Who feels the greater effect of a miscarriage, the guy or the girl? Girl. You could make an argument that he's feeling an emotional thing, but physically is he even going to be able to have that? No, he can't have that. All right, here's the other one. And this one actually is interesting. Okay? What also can occur as a result of her pregnancy? Nobody said it yet. An abortion. Write that down, an abortion. We haven't got into the details of all that and how it's all going to play out. Okay? Because here's the interesting thing. Sometimes the male and the female are like, well, we weren't planning on that. We're not really ready to have this child and responsibilities and da-da-da. And you can, adoption, in an adoption decision, write this down. A baby is born. Who has the opportunity, responsibility of making a decision with respect to adoption? Male, female, or both? Both. Both. Okay? If it is a live human being, a baby, both. Got that? But an abortion decision is left 100% for the female. Some of you guys knew that. If you don't, write it down. 100% for the female. Okay? So when you talk about the physical nature of an abortion, who carries that 100%? The female, okay? Who carries 100% of the full responsibility of ultimately making the abortion decision? The female, based on, and we haven't gotten to those Supreme Court cases yet, but basically, guys, if you didn't know this already, if a guy objects to an abortion, whether it's with a wife or girlfriend or whatever who's pregnant, he does not have a veto right on that, okay? So all of that, that's a whole bunch of things on the female side as far as responsibilities and this, that, and so forth. So the Supreme Court's like, yeah, states, if you want to treat guys and really try and disincentivize them from getting in the situation in the first place, you can do that if you want to. Do you understand? Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
So what I'm thinking is like, so if I'm a husband and I have a wife, right? My wife is pregnant. She does not want this, or like, whatever. Anyway, I'm like, yo, I really want this kid, right? But since the decision is hers, she can just abort the kid.
Correct. Correct. We haven't gotten to that yet, but that's correct. That is a correct understanding of what the abortion decision made by the United States Supreme Court is. Okay? Because there were some states that were like, okay, you know, the father or like the husband father has a right to keep the pregnancy going. And the Supreme Court said, no, that is a decision entirely upon the female. And to allow that male, to allow the male to veto puts a unconstitutional hindrance on the female's right to have an abortion, which, as you'll see, is a very, very big right that females have throughout their pregnancies. Okay? So, long and short of it, if the states want to deal with males and females differently, they can. It's up to the states, and some of them do. They really try to disincentivize the males. Basically, making them just sort of like super, super, uber cautious to not get into a situation with somebody who is too young. Because do you know people that look older than they actually are? Do you know 14, 15-year-olds that look like they're much older, that maybe try to look much older? Do you know 25-year-olds that look like they're in like 7th grade? I don't know, you know. Oh, here we go. We got another one. All right, here we go. This is a simple case. Let's see how you guys decide. I'm going to break you up into little courts here in just a sec. How would you decide this case? Okay. New Hampshire, which is not really a ocean state, but just north the northern border of Massachusetts, there's just a little teeny tiny bit of New Hampshire that goes into the Atlantic Ocean. I guess it gets warm in the summertime so that you can have like beach hangouts and so forth. Anyway, the New Hampshire law on their state beach is topless nudity is okay only for males. Okay, that's the rule. Okay? Two females challenged that law. They said it's a violation of the 14th Equal Protection Clause, 14th Amendment. Yeah, it's like, whatever, yeah. Yeah, guys are lone wolves, but, you know, yeah. Actually, it's not always true. Roe versus Wade, there was only one female that was pregnant. You know, takes two to tango, but one to get pregnant. No, don't get into that one. All right, you got that? Okay, so how would you rule? Is that, because the females are basically saying that's just sexist and ridiculous and so forth, and we've got upper torsos that have skin and so forth, and if you can't handle it, having they don't have a problem with it, I guess, in Italy or France or many other European places, and if you go over there, you're like, well, this sure isn't America. Anyway, so is that difference of upper torso significantly legitimate in order to support? Who wins in this case? The two girls who want to have the law thrown out as unconstitutional against the 14th Amendment, or the state of New Hampshire that wants to allow the guys to go topless but not the females? You decide. You got a court of two, court of three, who wins, and then we'll come around. Okay? You guys can have a court of three here. Who wins? 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 Question?
No,
Oh, no. Oh, for me? No, it's not. Oh, it is for me. No, it's water. Oh, that's right. Very good. Thank you very much. Lovely. I like water. Yeah. You don't want to stay. We're having a really good discussion on toplessness. Anyway, so did you guys reach a decision? In favor of who? 3-0 or 2-1 or what? 3-0. What's the reason? Just do whatever they want, you know? If you can't handle it, you can't, deal with it. Yeah. How'd you guys roll? The state wins. Unanimous. Why? So? So who wins? Oh, you haven't decided yet. Who wins? Oh, the women. Oh, okay. Why? But what about the guys that are like, ooh? Isn't important governmental objective reached by saying that the women can't go topless? So you're like, just deal with it, telling them to deal with it. So the women win. Who wins here? 3-0. Wow, this is interesting. We're getting a lot of unanimous decisions and so forth. Okay, justified how? For their own protection. The ladies need to be protected against those guys and so forth. Who wins? 3-0 or 2-1? They wind. They are winders, yes. Could a private beach do that? Of course a private beach can do that, yeah. Who wins? The court. No, the court doesn't win. The state or the women? The state wins. Why? There's a difference between upper male nudity and upper female nudity. And the state can identify those differences. Okay, who wins? The state, huh? Okay. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, shh. I think going around here we got all unanimous courts and so forth. Raise your hands if the women win their lawsuit. Here. I thought there was another one. Oh, you guys are right. You guys hadn't decided yet. You're a split decision? You're kind of. Raise your, okay, let's hear volunteers from those who ruled in favor of the women. Your opinion.
The women should be allowed to do what the men do.
There's no important governmental objective in the state of New Hampshire? So what about guys that are like, that'll start going, like, or like parents, who've got little kids and so forth? What do you tell them? Oh, you're like, if this one's going to... So you could have a... Okay. All right. Anybody... hold on. Anybody else rule in favor of the women that want to give their opinion? Yes.
Well, we said that just in a legislative sense, it says, topless nudity is allowed, but just for men. If we're just taking that sentence, it's unconstitutional.
Unless there's an important governmental objective in treating them differently.
Well, what's the objective?
What is the objective?
There is none.
They're saying there's just a naked, topless man, or a topless man is just the same as a topless woman. Okay? All right, Chris. Shh. One at a time. Chris.
I feel like the women should be able to make their choice. Because, like if they want to do that, sure. I just feel like they can't get mad if a consequence happens.
Oh, okay. That's a very interesting thing. Shh. That's a very interesting thing. In other words, if you're going to have certain parameters in society, you hope, because if a guy goes up to and physically molests a topless female, who's in violation of the law? He is. She's not happy about having to go through that, but they will prosecute the guy. Right? So you still have to deal with that. Shh. Okay? Owen. settle down. Okay. Let's keep it on the, go ahead.
Personally, it's not choice, but personally, I say, well, legally,
You guys are a split court, I can tell.
as a female, violates male
Shh. Shh. Ivan, quiet. Okay. All right. So let's hear from some of the other courts because the remaining courts. Shh, some of the court. Hey, court over there. Y'all, we're having the full session and so forth. It looks like there's a split decision. Let's hear some justification for those courts that ruled that the state was justified in treating them differently. Go ahead. Okay, quickly.
So when you said consequences, does that mean they came into the law or do the people actually claim the beach? Because if it was for the people that claim the beach, like the consequence is like a direct consequence for like mothers going at them and then there's being like a direct.
I think you were talking about like if somebody was assaulted, right?
He was basically saying like what I was saying, like if someone were to be molested. I just feel like if you can see it's going to happen more, you know?
And it's interesting, though, because if you go to places where it's the norm, like, the southern part of France or Italian beaches and so forth, it's like they just walk by and like, whatever. Although I'm sure there's some people that are like walking by and not going whatever, but that's the way they're supposed to behave because if you all of a sudden go over to somebody, just like on a regular beach, in America, if they're wearing bikinis or, shorts or whatever and so forth, you're supposed to just like not act like a dog, okay?
Regardless of a bikini or not, no one's still get raped.
Yeah, I mean, that is a challenge.
It doesn't matter what
Okay.
you're wearing, you still get
Yeah.
raped.
Okay. Caden, we'll take a couple more comments and I'll give you this court's decision, Supreme Court's decision. Here we go. Shh.
Hey, hi, Lindsay. You said that.
Victoria. Listen.
You said that they can just go to different non-nudist beach, but the beginning talk was that this is the only beach in New Hampshire, right?
Yeah, I would say, New Hampshire's got somewhat of a coast. If there is a beach that has things going on that you, maybe perhaps as a parent, that might be a situation that might factor into it, and you're like, I really don't want that, do you suppose there might be some other, maybe even some public beaches or certainly private beaches that were no nudity allowed as far as like the upper torso and so forth? Yeah, those might be so-called family-friendly beaches and more traditional beaches and things like that. What's indecent? Well, what's sexual? Is a nude male torso sexual? Is a nude female torso, upper torso, sexual? Kate's like, settle down.
Both can be sexual.
But here's the interesting thing. I don't want to get too far into this and so forth. Going back to the nutrient quality of an infant. An infant is born. Is the father going to be able to provide nutrients to the newborn? Only with a bottle, okay? The female, if they choose to do natural feeding and so forth, they could do that. All right, here we go. Drum roll. This case came out, write this down. This case was decided by the New Hampshire Supreme Court. The New Hampshire Supreme Court said that New Hampshire can, discriminate on the basis of this and say males can be topless, but females can't. So the girls, understanding this, Lizzie, if you were either one of the girls and so forth, and you didn't like the decision by the New Hampshire Supreme Court, what would you do? No, look, right here. You appeal to the United States Supreme Court. And that's what they did. Write that down. They appealed to the United States Supreme Court. Does the United States Supreme Court have to take the case? No, they only take about 100 cases. Were there 4 justices who were like, yeah, let's take this case? Correct. The answer is no. They did not take the case. Therefore, what is the final decision in the case? The New Hampshire Supreme Court saying no. Okay? You understand how that is? So it's interesting. There's still some of these kinds of things going on with respect to the courts. Age discrimination. Let's go to this one. All right? This is a 14th Amendment case as well. Okay? And we're not going to spend a lot of time with this one because there is such thing as age discrimination. It takes place. Driver's licenses, for example. Somebody might go, I'm 12 years old and I'm being discriminated against, I'm being treated differently, and the Equal Protection Clause is being violated. The Supreme Court's like, we will handle these cases. And here's what they came up with. You ready? Write this down. Rational basis test. This is the easiest one for the government to win. It's not based on gender differences. That's intermediate. It's not based on like race differences. That's strict scrutiny. This is rational basis. It means this. If the government treats people differently for age, as an example, they just have to have a good reason. What's a good reason to tell a 12-year-old they can't drive? You're not mature enough. That might be an interesting one. Yeah. As far as like people being treated differently there. Oh my gosh, we haven't gotten to the marriage laws yet. Oh my gosh. That's going to take place next. Oh my gosh, marriage and laws discriminating, saying that blacks and whites can't get married. That's coming up next time. For loving marriage, it brings us together. Yeah. Yes. Okay, wipe everything down, you guys. Wipe everything down. You're wiping. Thank you, Kurt, for